Honestly, this last week, I've never felt so ashamed to be British. And this weekend, it's going to get worse because pro-Islamic regime protesters, they're going to be marching through central London, mourning the death of the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei. They'll be paying tribute to him in our capital, a man who until recently led a war against our country, a man that has led chants for death to England during his so-called Friday prayers, a man who sent terrorists here to slaughter innocent British civilians, a man who sent illegal migrants here, some of whom have raped and divided our country, a man that butchered, reportedly, 40,000 of his own people, of course, according to multiple reports. Meanwhile, some mosques up and down the country have also been mourning the loss, seemingly, of their leader. And students, some British universities have shared posts mourning the death of the Ayatollah. More than a dozen student-led societies have expressed their sincere condolences to the so-called beloved Iranian supreme leader, with one even advertising, get this, a candlelit vigil in his memory. How many of them do you think would mourn the loss of a king or a prime minister in Britain? And something tells me you wouldn't hear a peep out of them, would you? So while our country is getting involved in a war, not just fighting Islamist terrorists abroad, or at least their regimes, it's now seemingly at war at home as our country divides over the fight against Islamism. Not just on the left, by the way, but this is happening on the fringes of the right too, who seem to think ignoring this regime will make it go away. Let me tell you, it won't. I strongly believe this is all due to the decades of pandering to sectarians and the Muslim vote, many of whom have no love for our way of life, no love for our values, and no love for the West as a whole. So whilst our Prime Minister earlier on last week slams the Green Party for its unapologetic pandering for sectarian votes, Keir Starmer last night addressed a Ramadan event.
But on Iran, I want to make clear the UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the US and Israel, and that remains the case.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and I'm so sorry right there.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.
I mean, it does something to me seeing that video. That's the Palestinian ambassador he's cozying up with there. Why does the Prime Minister feel the need to bring up Gaza and Iraq? And now, of course, his failure to respond immediately after our sovereign base was attacked by the Islamic regime in Iran. Why specifically, do you think, at that event? Because it seems to me that this shameless sectarian pandering by leftists across our country has created the most dangerous divide in Britain. Might all of this cowardice be because he's desperately afraid of losing their votes, desperately afraid of the Green Party outflanking him and his party at their own game?
My voters were very upset with the Labour Party. I was with you and you saw me over the line. You supported me in seats that are similar to mine. People lost their seat. You were there for me, and I don't believe I could have done that without you.
And as those pro-regime people will be marching through London on Saturday, I'm going to be there, so don't forget to tune in on Saturday evening.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just living credit. You know, whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward, and that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
Shall we ask my panel what they think about all of this? I wonder what they think. Joining me tonight, I've got Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov, and activist and pub landlord Adam Brooks is here. Mark, I'll start with you. You know, the Prime Minister, just after the by-election, slammed the Green Party in the House of Commons for pandering.
Yeah.
Pandering to sectarianism. And there he is again, last night, seemingly... it looked like they were nozzling each other, the ambassador for Palestine and the Prime Minister, and then having to bring up Iraq and Gaza. Was it pandering?
Yes, it's just that Keir Starmer's pandering is a bit less blatant than Zach Polanski's, but they're both in the pandering game.
Or at least he said it in English.
And I rather agree with you. It seems to me it's evident that that's the case when it's a Ramadan meeting. Why speak about foreign policy?
Yeah.
Had he just spoken
talk about religion?
Yeah, talk about religion.
Yeah.
So you're accepting a sectarianism when that becomes the content of your remarks. Had he just said, I wish you all, I hope Ramadan goes well for all of you, then it's almost ceremonial, but he's not. He's made it political and he's made it about foreign policy. And this is getting dangerous. We are tolerating rather too much. I mean, you've announced these, you referenced, Alex, these vigils that are happening. I mean, can you imagine if some hard right-wing group on the anniversary of, Adolf Hitler's death organised some vigil with posters of Hitler? They would be right on the terrorist watch list.
Yep.
And I think that's how we should treat that. If you are mourning the loss of this barbaric medieval mass murderer, then I think that should draw you to the attention of the authorities. If you're protesting against military action, that's a little bit different. I wouldn't agree with you, but that's a fair point to make. But if you are mourning the loss of the Ayatollah, you might not be a terrorist, but my God, you are terrorist adjacent.
It's scary, Adam. It's scary, Adam, because when you see what that regime has done to people in Iran, but then also what it's sent over here to us in Britain, you think to yourself, not only are we at war, by the way, with these people, could you imagine if there was mournings for Hitler and you were saying a similar thing, Mark, after World War II or during World War II, the uproar? How have we got to this point in Britain where this is happening?
Well, I'll tell you why we've got to this point and the head of it now is showing is because we have a Labour government that panders to extremism. We have a Labour government that is refusing to prescribe the IGRC as a terrorist group. Nearly every other Western country has done that. Why has Keir Starmer not done that? He's weak and they're scared of the Muslim vote. But going back to these universities, this is the last straw for me. This is disgusting. These institutions are poisoning the minds of our young people. They will not even accept a reform candidate or a reform person to come and debate on their campus. They wet themselves and throw their toys out the pram like little babies. But no, this is fine. To mourn a man that's killed 40,000 of his own people in 2 months, that has threatened Britain, America and Israel. This man is a monster and they're allowing it. I think, as Mark said, these should be on the terrorist watch list. But the thing that's really disturbing is half the people that will go to these university vigils are probably middle-class, white wallies in kefirs.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. They are brainwashed in this country.
I think that's a big part of the problem here. I don't want to point the finger just at Muslim people, because it's not just... And there's plenty of Muslim people, by the way, who think this is abhorrent.
I know some.
Absolutely
Exactly
abhorrent. I want to say that for the record. Nina, do you think the Green Party and Labour are pandering for sectarian votes?
I don't know about the Green Party, but I don't think Labour is particularly. As for mourning the death of Khamenei, that to me is abhorrent, and I agree with everything that everybody has said about Khamenei, of course, and slaughtering his own people is just horrendous. But let's bring it back to religion, because this is basically what it's about. It's about the Muslim religion and the Christian religion. Now, I don't adhere to any religion. I think religion is the cause of all the problems, or most of the problems in the world. I'm just trying to equate it to supposing somebody assassinated the Pope. So Catholics would mourn.
The Pope hasn't killed
No.
I understand where you're coming. Let me just say, I understand where you're coming from, but the Pope doesn't run a country that has a military and all those things.
I understand
and those
that.
people obviously have that context, and a lot of them are born here in the UK.
I understand that completely. I'm just trying to say this has a religion grips people by the soul, and so therefore they are blind to other things. But looking at those vigils and the candlelit things and the sort of the tweets that were proliferating about them, none of them apart from one from I think a TV presenter in Iran who was an activist, anti-Zionist. The rest have been, they said, come to this candlelit vigil. They didn't say bring knives, bring gloves. They said bring food, bring your wives. So you can't just condemn them all.
Should we allow it? Do you think it should be allowed on the streets of London? I mean, we are at war with that man who... I mean, he only lasted, 4 hours of this war, despite talking out for decades. But we are at war with that country. We wouldn't accept if we were at war with Putin having a mourning of Putin in London, would we?
Well, we are a country of free speech. We have to remember that. You have to allow people.
Nina, would you
to
allow a march through London of people sympathising with Putin after he died?
No,
do you think that would be okay?
They'd throw their toys out the pram.
Or Osama bin Laden
would throw their toys out the pram.
If there were Russians that wanted to do that. They are living in a country where free speech is allowed, and as long as they were not inciting violence.
Yeah, but hang on, this is the problem, isn't it? And this is what makes it even worse than, say, mourning the death of Adolf Hitler. This is more akin to mourning the death of Osama bin Laden, whilst Al Qaeda is still a clear and present.
He wasn't a religious leader.
Right, but I don't care.
But they care. They care.
Well, they
it's
may
their religion.
care, but the problem...
It's their religion. You have to respect that.
They may care, and they may want, what was it we were hearing earlier on GB News, they may even want the 20 planned terrorist attacks on British soil conducted by the Iranians to succeed. They may care, they may want that.
They may find them abhorrent. They may be
I can't
Muslim.
see how you could find all of these things abhorrent and then mourn the death of this man.
We're talking about extremists. We're talking about extremists.
I'll tell you what I find bizarre. There are 6% of this country are Muslim. Yet this religion seems to be the most important thing in the minds of our politicians.
It's not the most
almost
important
every
thing.
week.
It's
I do not
not.
understand
Nina,
it. And as I say, I respect everyone's right to their beliefs and their religion, whether you're Christian, Jewish or Muslim. But I don't want religion to affect my daily life every day. And at the moment, Labour are making that happen. It seems like they're prioritising the Muslim faith over everything else in this country.
That is such an extreme view, if you don't mind my saying. That is an extreme view.
Extreme view to say I respect people's religion, but I just don't want it in my face.
No. I'm saying you're saying the Labour government is making...
we've just seen a video of Keir Starmer.
He has to... He's a leader.
He doesn't have to do anything.
He has to meet other leaders. Of course he has to meet the leaders. You can't just say he used to turn his back on a Muslim leader.
When's he going to have some tough words for them?
He
doesn't seem to ever have some tough words.
How do you know?
Because we saw what he said at Ramadan.
Let me put this.
Well, you can say that. What was so wrong with what he said?
I don't want to get too much.
What was so wrong with what he said?
Let me just put this to you, because I don't want to get too much into Keir Starmer's speech, because we've done it already, but I guess the problem I've got with it, Nina, is that he's there talking about wars in the Middle East, which makes me feel at a dinner for Ramadan, which is a religious occasion, that he's identifying those people are from ethnic backgrounds that descend or either from those countries. Therefore, that's pandering to them at an event that's got nothing to do with war. He didn't need to make any statement about war last night.
If we are in a situation of war, if we are supposedly at war with Iran, it would be very bizarre if the Prime Minister turned up at a meeting, OK, it's a religious meeting, and said nothing about it at all.
That's my point, but that's proving my point, isn't it?
Bizarre.
That's proving my point.
These people aren't Iranians. They're just people that practice the Muslim faith.
Yeah.
Good luck to them.
And again,
I want everyone to practice their faith. But what has this war got to do with that meeting last night?
The war has to do with everybody, and particularly people who come from that region and adjacent to that region.
No,
if they're not Iranian, it doesn't matter.
Let's go back 1 second to the vigils and the students marching through London. Do you think they should be allowed this weekend, Mark?
Not if it's mourning the death of the Ayatollah. As I say, there's a fine line, and I suspect there'll be a mix of oil and water, that some people will be having banners of the Ayatollah, others will just be peace protesters who don't support the military action. So hard to distinguish between those two, but important to.
OK, briefly.
Right, we can stop this now. Prescribe the IGRC as a terrorist group, like the rest of the West Ham.
I agree with that.
And we
agree.
can stop that. Then that will stop the rallies.
No, it won't stop the rallies.
They will not be able to support a terrorist group.
They are not supporting.
The law,
they can, but they should be allowed to mourn a religious leader,
OK.
however abhorrent he is to us.
All right.